tune of the month. Happy February. I hope you're staying warm wherever you are. This month I have for you a Cape Breton jig. I learned this one from Natalie McMaster years ago, one of the first summers I was at the Mark O'Connor fiddle camps. And I've loved it ever since. And here's how it goes. So that's the tune. If you're listening, thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you next month. And if you're learning, you know the drill. You probably already have your instruments ready to go and play. So this month, as we dive into this, I'm going to speak mostly to string players. So if you're playing on a non-stringed instrument, you'll apply this to your technique arsenal. But I've been getting a lot of folks in workshops asking me about how I make things look so easy when I'm playing fast and a lot of notes. And the fact is, it is very easy if you limit the amount of work you do. And I've met a lot of fiddlers who like to do extra work, particularly in the left hand, because they're always picking their fingers up and down. When you have a tune like this with lots of arpeggios, the best thing you can do is leave all your fingers on the string every chance you get. I will never be caught lifting a finger that I don't absolutely have to lift. I call it lazy fiddling, but really what it is smart fiddling, because I'm not going to do any extra work. So as we go through this tune, I'm going to be looking for places to show you how to use this. I call it a glue finger technique, because I glue my finger down to the string and do not lift it. So we'll get into some of that to allow you to play this wonderful, notey, flowy, fast jig in a very easy sense. So here we go. We're in G major, and we're going to be talking a lot about arpeggios, obviously. G major is 1 sharp, and here's the beginning. I'll play the A section through slowly. If you've been following along with other Tune of the Month videos, you probably already heard that this is a part 1, part 2, part 1 ending kind of situation. And you might have also started already listening for where there are arpeggios and where there are scales. So let's break this down. Part 1 is a G major arpeggio. So it's almost all G major arpeggio, and I keep coming back to that G. And that whole time I've got my first finger glued down. I'm going to stay right there on that B. See, it hasn't lifted. Now I hop it across the string and finish. See that little bit of difference as opposed to much harder to do. Glue your first finger, B string. Now you can release it. Got it? That's part one. Part two has the first arpeggio, the first harmonic sequence of this whole thing. C major, G major. Up the scale down. Get your chords. So there's a C major, and then a G major in inversion starting on the B. Now up the scale land. See where those patterns come in handy? Now where could you glue some fingers in here? Obviously the first finger. You see how my first finger isn't moving through that? Now I have to lift it. Put it back down. And as I go up that scale, I'm adding fingers and then keeping them down. I'm not doing this. That's going to slow me down a lot. Much quicker and cleaner. Here's part two again. C major with a glue. G major. Up the scale. Yeah. Excellent. Now we're back to part one. The G major. Glue your first finger. Hop that first finger across. Now release. You already know that part. Here's the ending. Catch it again. Scale. G major. D major. Land. Did you catch those patterns? It starts the same place as part two, but instead of doing the arpeggio, it goes up the scale. G major arpeggio. Now down the D major arpeggio. With a little slur so you can end down bow. And that's the whole section. Not bad for an A section, isn't it? When you slow it down and use your arpeggio patterns, it's actually pretty easy. Alright, so let's go to the B. The B section, I'll play the whole thing through slowly. See if you can, as you're listening, find where there are scales and arpeggios. And look for where I might be gluing some fingers down to save myself extra time. You already heard some patterns, so let's dive in. Here's part one. Now, in this B section, there are a lot of those neighbor tones. And you notice that my third finger on the bottom and my second finger on the top are glued the whole time. And all I do is cross my bow back and forth. I could do that all day. And never actually move. Anytime you have a neighbor tone across the string like that, you're going to glue both fingers down. So you never have to come back. That's the whole part one. You notice it's all arpeggios? We start with a G major neighbor glue across. Glue. Now do an A minor arpeggio. Now G major. Now D major. You get that pattern? A minor, G major, D major. Now the catch for all of those is that they're not played going up from the root, they're played going down. So they start on the fifth, but that doesn't change the arpeggio, right? Normally A minor we would do this, right? That's going up. If you come back down, starting on the top note, it's what belongs in this jig. All right, here it is, part one. G major, glue across. A minor starting on the top. G major starting on the top. Plop down your third finger and glue your first. D major starting on the top. Got that? Part two starts exactly the same way with the neighbor glue across in G. Yeah, that's kind of a cute section, isn't it? Do it again. G major, glue across. Plop. So there's another glue finger situation right there. See that skip? When I skip up there, rather than just putting my third finger down, do you notice I put down all available fingers? I call it a plop. Anytime I have a skip, I'm putting down all the fingers that I possibly can, because it just comes down the scale and now those fingers are ready. If I plop, all I gotta do is lift up. That plop technique is easy to overlook when you're just jumping to a higher note, but if you have it, it's gonna make it so much cleaner because the notes underneath the note you skip to will be ready to play. Part two, neighbor glue across. Plop. Awesome, that's part two. Now, for those of you Tune of the Month followers, you will remember the grand ending from Miss Oswald's jig, Scottish jig that we did a couple months back. Here, we've done part one, part two. Instead of going back to part one, we're gonna do new material. This ending is gonna last double the length. And it's a big chain of arpeggios. Here's how it goes, grand ending. If that sounds like a lot of notes, don't you worry, it's all arpeggios. Here it is again, see if you can figure it out. Up the scale. Here's a plop, plop. Hopefully you're noticing a lot of skills we just did. Shall I name those arpeggios for you? Hopefully you figured out that they're all coming from the top, right? Just like in part one. The first one is a D major arpeggio. And notice I've glued my first finger. D major going backwards. Right, if we went forward it would be, there's the D major you're probably more familiar with. D major with a glued first. Now G major, A minor, and G major. All right, D, G, A minor, G. D, G major, A minor, G major. Now the very end of the ending goes up the scale, and you've got one of those plops. Pretty easy when you break it down, isn't it? Are you finding glue fingers? Usually a finger will glue through an entire arpeggio, and I'm doing a lot of gluing with my first finger. Basically, when you're playing slowly, you're looking for a chance to leave your fingers on the string as opposed to picking them up. I'll do the grand ending one more time. that's the whole tune. If you need to check any parts of it, go ahead and rewind the video and play over and over as many times as you like. I would love to play with you. A note for left hand ornament and bowing. Notice I didn't put any ornaments in because there really aren't any. This jig doesn't need a whole lot of ornaments because it's already so notey, and I don't like polluting it with a lot of ornaments. The bowing is your usual jig, big little, big little, big little, big little. And if you looked at the video about different jig swings a couple months ago, I'll tell you quickly that Cape Breton jigs tend to have a very light lilt. They're almost even bow. So your littles are going to be really quite big if you're playing it Cape Breton style. I like to play this jig a little more down east Canadian style, so my littles are about here as opposed to like there. But you can play around with it and find what you like. To close out, let's play this whole tune through slowly to give you a chance to put it all together with the patterns and as many glue fingers as you can possibly muster. Dave Marsh's favorite. That's the whole tune. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I get a chance to jam it with you when we meet somewhere out on the road. You never know where you're going to bump into other fiddlers, and recently I've been running into a lot of you folks who have been following the Tune of the Month, so thanks for the jams there. If you'd like to see this written out in sheet music with the notes of the names of the chords and things like that we talked about in this video, I send out sheet music with my monthly email on my newsletter. So if you go to my website, www.mariblack.com, and join the newsletter, you'll not only get to stay in touch with me outside these videos, but you'll get the sheet music for this tune and all the other tunes of the month going forwards. And I will love to see you there. Thanks so much for stopping by, everybody. Stay warm, have fun, happy tunes, and I'll see you in March.